It's 7:10 a.m., June 6, 1944. Lieutenant Colonel James Earl Rudder is standing in a landing craft, soaking wet, staring up at a 100-foot cliff. Above him, German soldiers in concrete bunkers are firing down at his boats. Pointe du Hoc, a knife-edge promontory jutting into the English Channel between Utah and Omaha beaches. Intelligence says there are 6 155mm guns up there, French-made GPF guns capable of hitting both landing beaches. Those guns can rain shells down on thousands of American soldiers trying to get ashore. Rudder's orders are simple: climb that cliff, silence those guns, and hold the position. His force? 225 Army Rangers from Companies D, E, and F of the 2nd Ranger Battalion. They're equipped with ropes, grappling hooks, and extension ladders borrowed from the London Fire Brigade. The plan, if you can call it a plan, is to scale a vertical cliff face while Germans shoot down at them from prepared positions. No one's ever tried anything like this in combat. Not in this war, not in any war. Here's the problem. The cliff isn't just tall. The rock face is chalk and limestone that crumbles when you grab it. The Germans have had 4 years to fortify the top. Concrete bunkers, machine gun positions, mortar pits, trenches, barbed wire. And they know the Rangers are coming. The pre-dawn naval bombardment just told them exactly where to look. Rudder's landing craft were supposed to hit the beach at 6:30 a.m., H hour. They're 40 minutes late. A British navigation error sent them to the wrong point initially. 40 minutes might not sound like much, but it means the Germans have recovered from the bombardment. It means surprise is gone. It means the follow-on Ranger force, Companies A and B, another 500 men, probably got diverted to Omaha Beach already. The contingency plan was clear. If Rudder's force doesn't signal success by 7 a.m., the reinforcements won't come. It's 7:10. They're not coming. So Rudder has 225 men to do a job planned for 7:25. He needs to climb an exposed cliff, take out 6 heavy guns, and hold against German counterattacks. The Germans have at least a full company up there, maybe more, with reinforcements nearby from the 9th to 14th Grenadier Regiment. The math doesn't work. But Rudder's looking at those cliffs, thinking about those guns, thinking about the thousands of men landing on Omaha Beach 5 miles east. If those 150mm guns open up on Omaha, the invasion could fail right there. At 7:08 a.m., Rudder turned to his radio operator and said, "We're going up." Not a question, not a debate, a statement of fact. The LCAs, landing craft assault vessels, grind onto the narrow beach. 30 feet of rocky shore, then the cliff rises straight up. Rangers jump out into chest-deep water. Machine gun fire rips across the beach. Mortar rounds explode in the surf. Men go down. The ones still standing run for the cliff base where the angle gives them cover from direct fire. That's the only advantage they've got. If you're right against the cliff, the Germans can't shoot you without leaning over the edge and exposing themselves. Sergeants are already pulling rope and grapnel launchers out of waterproof containers. These are rocket-propelled grappling hooks, essentially small rockets with hooks attached, designed to carry ropes up the cliff. British commandos tested them in training. They worked perfectly in England. Here, half the ropes are soaked with seawater. Wet ropes are heavier. The rockets can't carry them as high. Some grapnels fall short. Some get cut by Germans at the top. But some hold. Real quick before we dive deeper, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? And hey, what time is it where you are? Always cool to see how global this audience is. All right, let's get into how they actually pulled this off. First man up is Sergeant William L. Rod Petty. He grabs a rope, tests it, starts climbing. He gets 15 feet up, and a German potato masher grenade bounces down the cliff face. It detonates. Petty keeps climbing, gets another 10 feet, another grenade. He flattens against the rock, waits for the explosion, keeps going. By the time he reaches the top, his hands are bleeding, his uniform is shredded from rock fragments, and he's got grenade shrapnel in his shoulder. He pulls himself over the lip, empties his Thompson submachine gun into the nearest German position, and holds that ground while the next Ranger climbs up behind him. That's how it goes. One man at a time. Hand over hand. 100 feet of vertical cliff with Germans dropping grenades, firing down, trying to cut the ropes. The extension ladders, the ones from the London Fire Brigade, are mounted on DUKWs, amphibious trucks floating just offshore. The DUKWs are supposed to motor close and extend the ladders against the cliff. But the water's too rough. The DUKWs can't get close enough. The ladders are useless. It's all ropes now. Here's what climbing that cliff actually means. Your hands are wet. Salt water makes the rope slippery. Your equipment, rifle, ammunition, grenades, weighs 60 pounds. You're pulling yourself up using upper body strength alone because there's no footholds. The chalk crumbles when you try to brace your boots against it. You're exposed. If you look up, you might see a German leaning over to drop a grenade or fire straight down at you. If you look down, you see Rangers still on the beach, getting hit by mortar fire. You don't look anywhere. You just climb. Staff Sergeant Len Lomell from Company D makes it up. Technical Sergeant Bill Courtney right behind him. They get to the top and immediately start clearing German positions. Courtney uses a Browning automatic rifle, firing controlled bursts into bunker apertures. Lomell throws thermite grenades into firing slits. These aren't warning shots or suppressive fire. Every German position at the cliff edge needs to be destroyed, or the Rangers below die. The Germans are from the 726th Infantry Regiment, a static defense unit. They're not elite troops, but they're in prepared positions, and they know this ground. They've got MG-42 machine guns, firing rate of 1 to 200 rounds per minute, pre-sighted on every approach. They've got mortars ranged in on the beach. They've got interconnected trenches so they can move without exposing themselves. Every advantage belongs to the defenders, and the Rangers keep coming up those ropes anyway. By 7:40 a.m., 30 minutes after hitting the beach, Rudder has men at the top. Not all 225, not even half. Maybe 60 Rangers have made the climb. The rest are still on the beach waiting for ropes, or climbing, or dead, or wounded. But 60 is enough to start pushing inland, because the mission isn't to take the cliff edge. It's to find those 6 150mm guns and destroy them. Rudder establishes a command post in a bomb crater 20 yards from the cliff edge. It's not much, just a depression in the ground that offers some cover, but it gives him line of sight to coordinate the assault. His radio is wet. Half the time it works, half the time it doesn't. Communication with the naval forces offshore is sporadic. The follow-on Ranger companies aren't coming. The 116th Infantry Regiment, supposed to link up from Omaha Beach, is still pinned down on that beach 5 miles away. No reinforcements, no resupply, no heavy weapons except what the Rangers carried up those ropes. Lieutenant Theodore Lapres leads a team toward the fortified gun positions. These are massive concrete casemates, each designed to house a 155mm gun. The naval bombardment hit them. You can see the damage, cratered earth, broken concrete. But the structures are intact. Lapres reaches the first casemate, tosses grenades inside, rushes in with his team. The position is empty. No gun, just the mounting and some camouflage netting. Second casemate. Empty. Third. Empty. All 6 positions. Empty. The guns aren't here. Staff Sergeant Len Lomell is standing in an empty gun casemate, looking at concrete walls 8 feet thick and realizing the entire mission premise is wrong. French intelligence said the guns were here. Aerial reconnaissance confirmed it, or seemed to, but those photos showed wooden replicas, telephone poles disguised to look like gun barrels from the air. The real guns? Somewhere else. Lomell doesn't panic, he thinks. Those 155mm guns weigh over 10 tons each. You don't move something that heavy without leaving tracks. He spots vehicle ruts in the mud leading south, away from the fortified positions. tells his partner, Sergeant Jack Kuhn. "We're going to find those guns." It's 8 a.m. They've been on top of the cliff for 20 minutes. The Rangers are still consolidating their perimeter, clearing trenches, setting up defensive positions. German small arms fire is increasing. Mortar rounds are hitting near Rudder's command post. This is exactly the wrong time to go wandering off into enemy territory. Lomell goes anyway. He follows the tracks south along a sunken road, a classic Norman hedgerow path, dirt road below ground level with high earthen banks on both sides. Thick vegetation. Can't see more than 20 yards in any direction. Lomell and Kuhn move fast, weapons ready. They're deep in German-held territory now. One wrong turn, one German patrol, and they're dead. They cover maybe half a mile. Then Lomell spots it, camouflage netting in an orchard to the right of the road. He signals Kuhn to stop. They move closer, low and slow, all 6 guns, sitting in an unguarded orchard between Pointe du Hoc and the village of Auguay, roughly a mile inland. French-made 155mm GPF Moule guns, manufactured by Schneider. Each barrel is 20 feet long. They're positioned parallel to each other in a row, not dispersed, with ammunition stacked nearby, high explosive shells in wooden crates. The guns aren't in firing position, but they could be. The crews are somewhere else. Maybe pulled away to deal with the Ranger assault, maybe at breakfast. Doesn't matter. The guns are here, operational, and unguarded. Lomell doesn't have demolition charges. He used his C2 explosive clearing bunkers at the cliff edge. What he does have, 2 thermite grenades. That's it. Thermite burns at 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt steel. He moves to the first gun, pulls the pin on a thermite grenade, drops it down the traversing mechanism, the gears that allow the gun to swivel horizontally. The grenade ignites. White-hot flame erupts. The gears fuse together. That gun isn't firing at anything ever again. 1 grenade left, 5 guns remaining. Lomell runs back toward the Rangers' perimeter, finds Sergeant Frank Rupinski, who still has thermite grenades. They run back to the orchard together. Rupinski takes out 2 more guns. Lomell smashes the sights on the remaining 3 with his rifle butt, dumps ammunition into the mechanisms, renders them inoperable. It's not textbook demolition, but it works. 6 guns, all disabled. The entire operation, climbing the cliff, taking Pointe du Hoc, finding the guns, destroying them, takes 90 minutes from landing to mission accomplished. 90 minutes to neutralize the primary artillery threat to Utah and Omaha beaches. But here's the problem. Mission accomplished doesn't mean mission over. The Germans know the Rangers are at Pointe du Hoc now. They know how many, maybe 150 Rangers made it to the top by this point. And they know those Rangers are isolated. No reinforcements arrived. No link-up with forces from Omaha Beach. The Rangers hold a perimeter maybe 200 yards across, with ammunition running low, no heavy weapons, and German infantry regrouping for counterattacks. Rudder gets his defensive positions organized. Every Ranger who made it up that cliff is now digging in. They're using German trenches, German bunkers, whatever cover exists. They've got M1 Garands, Browning automatic rifles, Thompson submachine guns, and grenades. That's it. No mortars, no artillery support, no armor. At 9 a.m., the first German counterattack hits from the south. Elements of the 914th Grenadier Regiment, maybe 40 German soldiers, advance through the hedgerows toward the Ranger perimeter. They're probing for weak points, testing the defenses. Sergeant Rupinski spots them at 75 yards. He opens up with his BR. Other Rangers join in. M1 Garands firing as fast as men can pull triggers. The Germans go to ground, return fire, pull back. First attack repelled. But they'll be back. And next time there'll be more of them. By noon, ammunition is critical. Rangers are down to 2 or 3 clips per rifle. Some have 5 rounds left. Others are out completely, and carrying German Mauser rifles taken from dead soldiers. Medics are running low on bandages and morphine. The casualty count is climbing. 20 dead, 40 wounded. That's a quarter of the force killed or out of action within 5 hours of landing. Rudder moves from position to position, checking his men, redistributing ammunition. He finds a ranger named Salva with a bullet hole through his helmet. The round went in one side, traveled around the interior band, exited the other side without touching Salva's head. Salva's still fighting. Rudder finds another ranger, Private First Class, who took shrapnel to the leg. The medic said he needs evacuation. The ranger refuses. Can't evacuate down a cliff. Can't leave his squad short. He wraps the wound himself and stays on the line. At 1 p.m., the Germans hit harder. Coordinated assault from 2 directions, south and west. Mortars pound the ranger positions first. Then infantry advances under covering fire. The Rangers are outnumbered 3-1, maybe worse. They've got no artillery support. Naval gunfire can't reach this far inland without risking hitting the Rangers. Air support? Forget it. Cloud cover and coordination problems mean Allied aircraft are nowhere near Pointe du Hoc. What the Rangers do have, high ground, prepared defensive positions, and the fact that every man there is a volunteer who passed Ranger selection. These aren't conscripts. They're soldiers who chose the hardest training, the worst missions, the longest odds. Sergeant Petty, the first man up the cliff, is holding a position near the road junction. Germans advancing on his position. He's out of M1 ammunition, using a captured German MP-40 submachine gun. When that runs dry, he picks up grenades. When those are gone, he uses his trench knife. Hand-to-hand combat in a Norman hedgerow while the invasion of Europe hangs in the balance. Lieutenant Lapris coordinates enfilade fire, positioning Rangers so their fields of fire overlap, creating crossfire zones where Germans can't advance without getting hit from multiple angles. It's textbook small unit tactics executed under the worst possible conditions. The German attack breaks. They take casualties, pull back, regroup. But Rudder knows this isn't sustainable. Every attack costs him men and ammunition he can't replace. The perimeter is shrinking. By late afternoon, he's consolidated into a tighter defensive position, maybe 150 yards across. Germans now control parts of the trench system the Rangers initially captured. It's not a siege, it's worse. It's a slow squeeze. Night falls. June 6th becomes June 7th. The Rangers are still holding. Barely. They've improvised supply drops, ammunition and medical supplies thrown from destroyers offshore, floating in on the tide. Rangers rappel down the cliff to collect containers. Some get shot by Germans who figured out what they're doing. They go anyway. June 7th brings more counterattacks. Germans know the Rangers are weakening. They push harder. Rudder's command post takes a direct mortar hit. Rudder gets wounded, shrapnel to his leg. He refuses evacuation, stays in position. By the end of June 7th, Ranger strength is down to about 90 men still combat effective. June 8th, early morning, American tanks from Omaha Beach finally break through. The 116th Infantry Regiment links up with the Rangers at Pointe du Hoc. Relief arrives 60 hours after Rudder's force landed. When the reinforcements reach the Ranger perimeter, they find 90 men defending a position that should require 300. Ammunition nearly exhausted. Casualties everywhere. But the perimeter held. The guns stayed silent. The mission succeeded. Final count. Of the 225 Rangers who assaulted Pointe du Hoc on June 6, 1944, only 90 were still combat effective when relief arrived on June 8th. 135 casualties, killed, wounded, or missing. That's a 60% casualty rate. In military terms, a unit that takes 50% casualties is considered combat ineffective, no longer capable of offensive operations. The Rangers at Pointe du Hoc exceeded that threshold and held anyway. So was it worth it? Did those 6 150mm guns justify losing 135 men? Here's what we know. Those GPF 150mm guns had a maximum range of 19,500 yards, about 11 miles. Pointe du Hoc sits almost exactly between Utah and Omaha beaches. If those guns had been in position and firing, They could have hit both landing zones simultaneously. Each gun could fire 4 rounds per minute. 6 guns, sustained fire, hitting landing craft as they approached the beach, hitting men wading through the surf, hitting the first waves trying to establish a beachhead. The Rangers prevented that. Not by taking the cliff, by finding those guns in that orchard and destroying them before German crews could get them operational. Lomell and Kuhn's independent action, following vehicle tracks through enemy territory, saved an unknown number of American lives. Maybe hundreds, maybe thousands. We'll never know the exact number because those guns never fired. But the mission exposed something else: intelligence failures. Aerial reconnaissance missed the fact that the guns had been moved. The entire assault plan assumed the guns were in the fortified positions. They weren't. The Rangers adapted. That's the lesson. When the plan falls apart, and it always falls apart, you adapt or you die. Rudder received the Distinguished Service Cross. Lomell got the Distinguished Service Cross. Petty got the Silver Star. 23 other Rangers received Silver Stars for actions at Pointe du Hoc. But medals don't capture what happened there. The after-action reports do. Rudder wrote, "Every man who attempted the climb made it to the top. We lost men climbing, but not because anyone quit. We lost them to enemy fire." Post-war, Pointe du Hoc became part of Ranger mythology. Every Ranger class at Fort Benning studied the assault. The tactical problems: vertical terrain, exposed approach, defended objective. The solutions: speed, aggression, adaptability. Modern Army Rangers still reference Pointe du Hoc in training scenarios. Not as a perfect operation, it wasn't, but as an example of mission accomplishment despite catastrophic circumstances. Rudder survived the war, became president of Texas A&M University, then commissioner of the Texas General Land Office. Died in 1970. Lomell lived until 2011. Spent decades speaking about Pointe du Hoc, always emphasizing the men who didn't come back. In interviews, he'd deflect praise. "I was just doing my job. The heroes are the ones who died on that cliff." The tactical reality is this: the Pointe du Hoc assault succeeded because 225 men decided that success mattered more than survival. They climbed knowing the odds. They fought knowing reinforcements weren't coming. They held because letting go meant failure, and failure wasn't acceptable. Military historians debate whether the guns posed a real threat, whether they would have been operational, whether the assault was necessary. Those debates miss the point. On June 6, 1944, the intelligence said those guns threatened the invasion. Rudder's Rangers eliminated that threat. Mission accomplished. The cost was brutal. The success was absolute. That's Pointe du Hoc. That's what happened when 225 Rangers climbed 100-foot cliffs under fire and did exactly what they came to do.